Welcome to another episode of Follow the Brand. I am your host, Grant McGaw, CEO of 5-Star BDM, a 5-star personal branding and business development company. I want to take you on a journey that takes another deep dive into the world of personal branding and business development using compelling personal story, business conversations, and tips to improve your personal brand. By listening to the Follow the Brand podcast series, you will be able to differentiate yourself from the competition and allow you to build trust with prospective clients and employers. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. Make it one that will set you apart, build trust, and reflect who you are. Developing your 5-star personal brand is a great way to demonstrate your skills and knowledge. If you have any questions for me or my guests, please email me at grant.mcgaugh, spelled M-C-G-A-U-G-H, at 5-Star BDM, B for brand, D for development, M for masters.com. Now let's begin with our next 5-star episode on Follow the Brand. Welcome, dynamic visionaries and transformative leaders, to another impactful episode on the Follow the Brand podcast, where we uncover the magnetic forces and unspoken strategies of the luminaries shaping today's business world. I am your host, Grant McGaugh, CEO of 5-Star BDM, where we help you to build a 5-star brand that people will follow. Are you ready to dive deep into the ocean of possibilities and innovation? Today, we have the privilege to host a woman of boundless influence and staggering accomplishments, the founder of Your Endless Possibilities Incorporated, Jennifer Samuel Tran. Jennifer is a revered communication strategist specializing in the metamorphosis of businesses, turning them into powerhouses of influence and revenue. Often hailed as the speech fixer, Jennifer crafts bespoke systems transforming verbal communication from the mundane to the unforgettable. Jennifer's 24 years of fervent passion in speaking and storytelling has taken her across the globe, conducting an incredible 1,792 workshops and counting on powerful communication skills. From universities to professional speaking organizations, from business conferences to retreats, her phenomenal skills have resonated with the hearts of thousands, including those of professional athletes. Her alter ego, Miss Jen Jen, has been weaving stories that captivate the souls of audiences, both young and old, since 1998, showcasing her versatile storytelling prowess. Diving deeper, Jennifer's credentials are nothing short of impressive. Holding an MBA from the University of Tampa and acclaimed titles from the National Speakers Association and Toastmasters International Incorporated, Jennifer's illustrious journey epitomizes her relentless pursuit of excellence. Our dynamic guest has shared her extensive knowledge through numerous articles, co-authoring the pivotal 12 Strategies for Success, and her words have echoed through TV commercials and promotional videos, making her voice a beacon of inspiration and empowerment. With her extraordinary Miss Jen Jen executive stage presence methodology, Jennifer has been the guiding star for executives, entrepreneurs, and sales professionals, helping them unveil their authentic selves and deliver presentations with unparalleled credibility and confidence. And as a fun fact about our guest today, she harbors a deep love for singing and, yes, French fries. So be aware she does not share. So whether you're a corporate leader yearning for impactful speech delivery or a curious mind aspiring to explore the dynamic world of public speaking and storytelling, you are in for an intellectual treat today. Let's unravel the secret behind powerful, authentic presentations and delve into Jennifer's unique approach to shaping speeches that resonate and reverberate, leaving audiences hanging on every word. With the powerhouse of communication herself, Jennifer Samuel, let's welcome her to the Follow Brand Podcast, where we are building a 5-star brand that you can follow. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Follow Brand Podcast. I am your host, Grant McGall, and I get an opportunity to talk to someone with so much energy, so much happiness, so much joy. We are going to have a good time today. We're going to talk about storytelling. We're going to talk about presentations. We're going to talk about some things that normal people, they say public speaking, is that we talk, it's kind of a scary kind of thing. But we're going to talk to a 20-year veteran. Somebody's been doing this for a while. That I take you from pain to glory. They would say, so you're going to come out of this feeling so much better. I'm going to first get you introduced to Jennifer because some people call her Jen. I like that. Jen sounds cool. Jen, you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. So my name is Jennifer Samuel Chance. When I was a child, I wouldn't eat food properly. So my mother would call me Jen to get me to try and eat. And it's the name that kind of stuck throughout my life. And like I said, my original name is pretty long. So people have sometimes a hard time remembering it, but they remember Jen. So that's what I call now, Miss Jen.
Well, I remember it well. How are you going to forget something like that? So talk to us. We're going to jump right in.
Okay.
You help people tell their stories. And before you tell us more about that, I want you to tell us why is this the big problem? Why is this the thing that you chose to do in life? What gravitates you to this type of work?
Well, I think it actually chose me. I will tell you that if you'd have told me probably 26 years ago that I'd be doing this for a living, I would have said, you are out of your mind. Who, me? No. You may listen to the way I speak and hear that I have a little bit of an accent, and that's because I'm originally from London, England, and spent the first 18 years of my life there. My parents were from a wonderful Caribbean set of islands called Trinidad and Tobago. So my entire life, I heard storytelling, and they were the most prolific storytellers I think I've ever known, and I may be a little bit biased, but there you go. Anywho, that's how I knew to communicate. That's how I heard things. So fast forward when the whole family moved to the United States, and it was time then to put like childish things away and then go to college and get the good job and get the house on the hill, 2.5 kids, and then, your life is happy ever after. So I did that. I followed that program for a while. I was a very successful manager with a US Fortune 500 company. Had a blast, great people, great money, but it was also a round peg in a square hole, which means it didn't suit me. And I was extremely good at my job, but I was just so unhappy. So I had a moment of burnout where I kind of asked the universe, help me. I can't do this anymore. Long story short, went kind of soul searching for a couple of years and then came upon a person who said, you've got an unusually deep voice, which I love to hear. And I think that people might like to hear that too. Have you ever thought of public speaking for a living? So she had affirmed what I'd actually heard since I was a teenager, because I've had this voice since I was a teenager. I'm also an introvert at heart, so I didn't want to do anything that brought attention to me, which was speaking. However, over the years, again, people would hear it. Are you a speaker? Are you in television? Are you in radio? I would spend years saying, no, until after that day with her. And then I said, I surrender. I surrender. How many times can you keep getting messages? Yeah. So 1 month after that conversation, I started speaking. And storytelling was the way I knew to communicate the best. So I've always infused storytelling in what I did, speaking-wise. And then also, too, I learned to become a professional storyteller. And I would travel some parts of the country, telling stories from the Bible, telling business stories. So I understand how it connects people. I understand how it takes people on a journey and how it's way beyond just entertainment. It is actually a connective glue that people can use to get together, to relate to each other, to trust. And then over the years, I've learned more and more stuff. And then I learned to teach people how to tell stories. So that's kind of how I started doing what I was doing. Didn't wake up one morning and said, I'm going to be a storyteller.
No, I see that you did not. It's a journey, though, right? Life is a story. It's your particular story, your particular journey. There's chapters in that journey, and you just never know kind of what the next page is going to bring. Right? And now you're bringing that story, that opportunity to others. Because you say, I'm doing this as a business, and you had a successful business helping people, because we all know, a lot of us all heard public speaking, oh my God, I'd rather be, dead. And that's a heck of a choice to have to be. You should feel like that. And I know what I felt for me, because I've been in that position. It was like, hey, I'm not very comfortable doing that. But I became a leader of an organization. I had to get out in front of people, and I had to get some coaching. And initially I went to Toastmasters to learn how just the mechanics, just the fundamentals of how to tell, creative and to do presentations accurately that actually draw people in, how to control your voice. You talk about tonal quality and things like that. This is all important. Talk to us about your business and, how you got that started and what you're really doing for people.
Okay. So my business kind of morphed. I originally started off as a professional speaker, just speaking. And I had a couple of clients that actually sent me around the US, the Caribbean, Europe to do business workshops. So I would oftentimes have to do business workshops 5 days a week, 6 hours a day to total strangers. So I learned techniques. I really honed my storytelling because I had to find ways of keeping people engaged and captivated 6 hours at a time. So after mastering that for a good couple of years, I was also, when I would come on with the weekends, performing as a storyteller. I told you Miss Jen Jen. And Miss Jen Jen is basically a Caribbean woman that had, fun, joy, laughter. And it was an entertainment piece that I put together to entertain audiences. So a particular person came to one of my performances. And 3 years later, she had actually kept my business card and put it on her fridge. And she called me out of the blue. And she says, Miss Jen Jen, I've got to give this speech. And I was captivated by when I saw you storytell. I knew one day I would need this card, and here it is. So she wanted to tell stories about her son. She didn't know how, and she hired me to actually teach her how to tell stories and put them in a speech. And I hadn't even considered doing that while I was speaking. I always thought performing is one thing, speaking is another. That one day, fusing those things together, eureka, everything opened up. She was happy. I was happy. I said, I could do this forever. So that was in 2004. And over the years, my business has morphed and changed and morphed and changed. And now I would say probably most of my time now is spent coaching executives, successful business owners, celebrities, sports figures on how to actually just be comfortable in front of an audience. And the best way to do that is storytelling. So part of what I do is, of course, we work on the story, but there's a larger framework that the story goes into. And I do all of that too, because again, I've spent 20 years doing that for a living as well. So that's essentially my business.
Well, that is a great business, because we all probably, a lot of people, it's a great percentage of people, get tapped and have to get in front of an audience of people, whether it's just a group of 5 or less or 50,000 people or more. But you're going to have to tell a story. You're going to have to convey some information, some knowledge, some insight, some to the fact. Take us through the process where you've got a client in front of you, and they're like, Jen Jen, I'm scared. I'm petrified. I'm letting you know I'm petrified.
Right.
How do you help them to relax?
Okay. So the first thing to realize is, though, there are some people that naturally have the gift of gab. And I will honestly say that I think I have that, and I got that from my parents. However, it is not enough to sustain and captivate an audience long term. So you actually have to put in place a system or a methodology or framework so that as you're out there speaking, It is not wild, you're just grabbing for stuff. I meet people all the time. They're scared, they've got stage fright, or they don't necessarily feel the nerves, but they have no plan as to what they're going to say. It's usually from the heart, and it's a stream of consciousness, which is not necessarily a bad thing if you're in a good place. But if you have to speak from that place and it's not good, then your speech could be choppy. So what I do is, over the years, what I found was, if people have an issue with stage fright, fear, confusion, not quite sure what to say, it's usually not a function of them being able to speak. It is not the physical act of speaking. It's what's in here, what's in the brain, what belief systems they have, what they can and can't do. Something, and my work always kind of shows them that blockage usually has nothing to do with them speaking, nothing at all. So I developed a 5-step program that takes people through a series of steps that enable you to kind of really get comfortable in your own skin. And I don't care if you are the most confident person that people look at you and wish they want to be you, or somebody that's really, really nervous and you're extremely scared and don't even want to be out there. First step is clarity. So that's usually where we tackle the stage fright thing, because there's blockages inside. So I have techniques, I have a methodology that I use that works extremely fast. That's what I like. We ain't got time to waste. Extremely fast, where you usually feel results pretty immediately. And then that allows you to start opening up as a person and not feeding into those beliefs that are keeping you scared. So we do all that and some other stuff too. Then the second step is actually certainty, which means you're now stepping forward to, okay, what am I speaking about? What are my stories about? Does it fit me? Is it authentic? Because that's the biggest thing that I think leaders really need to consider when they lead a team, whether it's a large, conglomeration, or if it's a team of 2. Will my staff trust me? Am I credible? Will I get the respect that I deserve? And some do believe, and rightfully so, that by their title, they should get that. However, they may have found, depending on what they're putting out there, that's not the case. So if you learn to present yourself in such a way that is authentic, real, but at times that are appropriate, you're vulnerable, you are a person that's relatable, then all of a sudden, the people that you lead and guide will follow you through a wall because they know that they can relate to you. So after we have clarity, we have certainty, then we construct. And construct the speech, take a look at everything that needs to go about. You analyze the audience. There are tons of different steps. But we then put a framework together to say, okay, this is what you're going to speak about. Here's how we're going to engage the audience with activities. Here are the stories you're going to use. Here are the visuals you're going to use. Here's the stats you're going to use. We put it all together in a nice framework. Then, got the framework. Now we work on actually delivering confidently. So that is the thing you actually talked about earlier, where you actually physically give the speech, practice, wording, and I am extremely particular about that. I warn all of my clients that we will pick through sentence by sentence, word for word, because what happens is whatever you say, your audience is hanging on to. And you don't want to throw out stuff. You don't want to say something that, doesn't mean anything. You want it to be purposeful. So we really do go through it with a fine-tooth comb so that you can find those emotions, find those feelings that really connect to audiences, even if you're giving just a simple informational talk. Then you do all that, you give the speech, and then afterwards we do confirmation, which means usually the speech is recorded, and we take a look at what worked, what we could do differently next time, and how to improve it. And then the cycle continues and continues and continues. So that's the essence of the whole 5-step program. It's called the Executive Stage Presence methodology.
I feel better already. I mean, you took me through just listening to you. I'm like, wow, because I remember those times I was really nervous and I don't know what I was going to say. I couldn't say anything. Tell everybody, make sure you don't eat or drink anything before you get on stage, before you go. Those kind of things that can clog your passages, and you can't speak. You can't enunciate. That's the last thing. And then you're just extra nervous, right?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch that goes into that.
You just articulated a process that could take anyone, no matter where they are in their journey, to be better at delivering their message. I wanted to ask you this.
Yes.
When I'm listening to you right now, you're very entertaining. I when I say that is that you come across, you got a lot of levels that are happening there. There's a knowledge level, there's information, right? That mental aspect. But then there's a lot of enthusiasm, and I feel a hint of humor on there.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like your personality just kind of flows through. Is that natural for you? Is that something you honed in on, or is that something you teach as well?
This episode is brought to you by 5-Star BDM. 5-Star BDM is a professional consulting and advisory group keenly focused on business development services for small to mid-sized businesses and entrepreneurs. Although every business is unique, they often share challenges that can be addressed through smart branding. Services include process improvement in operations, digital strategy and transformation, business intelligence, digital marketing, and personal branding. Our 5-Star business and personal branding company has helped a number of professionals and organizations to optimize and grow. The result is more business, more opportunities, better reach, positive outcomes. Please visit www.5starbdm.com to learn more and view all the episodes of Follow the Brand.
Yes, yes, and yes. Meaning, because I spent many years doing things I didn't like to do, when I finally discovered the world of speaking, storytelling, and coaching, and it fit and felt really good, and I decided, okay, I'm going to stay here in this space. So you can tell I actually love what I do. And I think that is so important it may be the situation where you have to give a speech or presentation and you don't love what you have to speak about. You don't, but we're going to work on it so that there's going to be some aspect of that presentation or speech that you fall in love with. And usually it's actually the story part. I will tell you that right now. Because I always believe if you're going to share stories, share something personal, that you can be there, take your audience through it on a journey while you're telling it. And then that way you're comfortable, therefore they're comfortable. My motto is life is so short. And if it ain't fun, I ain't doing it. Because I don't know about you, but every year seems to go faster and faster and faster. We've got all this stuff going on in the world. There's, yes, a lot of negativity. So I think wherever possible, try and find yourself in a space, or if you're going to share a message, not that you have to be a comedian, that's not necessarily it, but sometimes we need to lighten up and not take ourselves so seriously. So I've, yes, learned. I still continue to learn. I stay in school all the time when it comes to my speaking. I up-level. I have a speech coach. I have a business coach because I want to make sure that my skills are up so that as I coach my clients, I'm giving them the best of what I have to offer. I'm not one of those coaches that learned a system in like 5 years ago and they're still working it. No, mine pretty much gets tweaked every week as I work with different people because different people have different needs. It's not a cookie cutter thing to work with people. So yeah, it's fun. If you don't like having fun, I'm not the person for you. I'm sorry. I'm just not.
I'm going to change the tone just a little bit. And I want you to take us into like the mind of an executive, CEO of a company, and he's got to now deliver bad news. Sometimes you're not presenting all you call good news. He's got to do more or less like a press release or something that happened or whatever it might be. Right. And he's got to deliver this information. You got to deliver the morbid news. Now we see it on the nightly news. I don't know how they do it. With a straight face and a smile, they tell this horrible information. And now be like, wow, that was pretty bad.
How do you switch?
But there's a way of doing that. But not to digress, if you're an executive, and I've seen this happen a lot, and now you're gonna go, maybe you've got to announce a layoff or having, difficulties in our business, and it's going to affect lives. This is not a humorous situation. It's a very serious situation. How do you coach people through that?
Bottom line is you've got to understand that the negative reaction you're getting is not usually personally at you, even though they're going to hurl whatever they hurl at you like it's your fault. It's their reaction to negativity. You're the target right now, so you're going to get it. But you cannot take it personally, because your job as leader is to be transparent, be authentic, be real, and share the truth, whatever that is. I found that in most cases, story is probably the best way. Story, maybe in conjunction with statistics, depending on the situation, is the best way to deliver news, which means whatever the news is, you have to lay off employees. There's got to be a background story that goes with it for reasoning. And again, it may not be that it's going to be satisfying the audience because they don't want to hear the word layoff anyway. But if you give context to why the layoff is happening, maybe you speak also to some of the emotions you imagine they're feeling. And you've got to be really careful with that, of course, be sensitive, but be real. And if you have a situation that's happened in your career, your life, where you felt or where you were laid off, let me say that even better. And you know that when you were laid off and you came in, they basically told you, okay, pack up your bags, today's your last day. You're like, what? So you've got fear, you've got shock, you've got panic because you don't know what you're going to do next. And then depending on what the organization plans to do for you after that, because some organizations do their best they can to help people outsource to another job, some don't. So whatever the negativity is that's swirling around, you cannot take it personally. You're going to get it, but understand you are the bearer of news and you do the best you can to put it in context so that people get it. That's about as best as you can do.
No, you frame that very well, because there's no probably good way to deliver bad news.
No.
But I think you just gave us some very good tips on how to do that. I think that's wonderful. And you've also given us some good information how to just deliver a presentation. Help us understand this. I've heard people ask me this a lot of times. What are the differences of doing a presentation in front of let's say a boardroom? There's 5, 6 people there. What is the difference? Do you change up when it's more of a room of 50 people? And then what does that look like when you're in an auditorium of thousands of people? Help us understand.
Right. Well, a lot of it is, I very much come from the school that people give and commit and omit energy. Okay? So if you're in a small boardroom where you've got less than 10 people, you are right there with them and they're right there with you. So you have to, of course, allow for that. I'm very much as possible as direct eye contact with everybody. So if you're in a room full of a small room, that's real easy. You don't stare people down and talk, stare at them and then, no. You talk, I'm talking to you right now, okay, and then I go to the next person, and you make sure that you make contact with everybody. And again, depending on the situation, then your presentation will be tailored to 6 or 10 people. You're not going to do activities for 1,000 because it's only 6. So boardroom, and most boardroom meetings tend to be around a boardroom table, which is an interesting dynamic. We don't have time to go into it now, but the layout of the room, the type of tables, that makes a huge difference. If you have a room of 50 to 100, that's, again, you can't necessarily do eye-to-eye contact with everybody because you'd be there all day. But what you do want to do is kind of sweep the room. So there's a very specific pattern that you place your eyes in. It's not really a secret, but most people that are professional speakers know it, that you can look over there, and I'm going to just do this so you can see it. Look over there and cover the back of the room, then look down front and talk. Then I look in the middle of the room, talk, and then I look at the back. So by the time I sweep the room, I've pretty much covered just about everybody. Not necessarily eye to eye, but at least general direction.
Got it.
You want to make sure you do that because you don't want to leave people out.
Yeah.
Don't want to leave people out. Auditorium, quite different because oftentimes you can't see anybody. It's usually dark. But in most cases, especially today, there's a camera on you. So in some instances, depending on the makeup of the room, there's times when you kind of have the body language like you're speaking to the small room executive situation. However, if you're on a large stage, then you need to move along the stage because you need to cover this side, you need to cover this side, cover this side. But watch what's happening with your face because the camera is going to pick up everything. So there's lots of different dynamics. That's one of the things when we first start working together. I say, okay, who are you speaking for? Where are you speaking? And I'm very, very particular and give insight to give to the speaker to make sure the room is set up the best way possible, if they can change that. I've gone in speaking situations and changed seating patterns, changed a whole bunch of stuff, because I know how people's attention spans are real short. So you want to make sure as much as possible, all eyes are on you. There's no, encumbrances anywhere. Never speak where there's a door behind you and people are coming in and out of. I've seen that many, many times in like hotel situations. I've had them swap the room to the side and move seats. They haven't been happy. But in the end, it's so much better because if somebody comes in, they're not disturbing everybody. They're not spoiling the flow, and you can go do what you need to do.
Ted, you said something that, first of all, made me just like, man, that is so great. I could be in an auditorium, 15,000 people there. I can't see anybody. I love that.
But you have to act like you do.
Because you think about all those eyes are on me, but you can't see them. Like, oh, this is easy.
Yeah, but it won't be, again, you would have worked in your clarity session.
Yeah.
That won't be an issue anymore. So you'd be like, yes, they're looking at me.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. You kind of get over that,
Yes.
But that happens. But I think that for me, what you just described, I think that might be easier to talk in front of a whole thousands full of people than just 50 of your peers that know you inward and out. Sometimes those can be difficult. But you've done a lot of different scenarios, and I like that. How you've been able to work the rooms. They tell you, you got to know how to work the room and don't understand how to do it. And here's something, I hear this a lot. It came out a lot during COVID. And now we're in, more or less, I hope, a post-COVID world. But the difference between doing a virtual presentation as to one that's in person. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Everything's in the screen right here. So, all right, so I'm going to pretend this is how I used to be before I got coaching on it. So if I was giving a presentation and I was on the screen, I was basically just looking at the camera and making sure that I was looking at the camera because I was nervous of the camera because I knew there were people in there somewhere, but I wasn't quite sure. Versus understand the camera is the portal to the audience. Mm-hmm. So I'm pretending right now that this camera right here is a person. Now I'm not telling you, the way my camera is set up is a little above the screen. So if I was to look at you, now you can see where my eyes are versus looking at the camera. Right. So that's the biggest thing I see with most people. I remember I asked you, where are my eyes?
Right, yeah.
Be very careful about that. So right now I'm looking at you, and that's great. You look wonderful. That's fine. But it's off. So you have to make adjustments, number one, for a screen. Things have changed a little bit. And now, because so many people are online, you need to make sure that you're memorable. And so I have no idea. I don't have any problem with you being kind of wild and out there and sending your energy through that screen. Not too much now, because then you're too much and people just click too much.
Yeah.
But bring your personality through and understand it's your best friend talking right there. And I got to tell you something. And let the energy come forward.
Yeah. No, I like those are great tips. Now we're getting toward the end of our session here. And I want you to take over. I want you to talk to my audience. I got an audience of healthcare professionals, information technology professionals, students, early careers. People are just like, at some point in time, I'm going to be in this position. I like what she's talking about. Give us something. Talk to us about that in your business.
Okay. Well, we got about 30 minutes. So I can no. Let me share with you a piece of advice that was given to me by a manager that was interviewing me for my first major job. And he basically said this: take care and make sure you really master those communication skills. Now, he had heard my voice, said what everybody said, but I didn't understand what he meant until I got into this profession. Meaning, I'm sure there are some of you watching right now, listening to this podcast, that you know people that have gotten promotions that you know darn well they were not qualified for. But they talked a good game, or they were likable, or they did whatever. And that's not necessarily a good or bad or a judgment thing. It just is. So what that manager told me and what he meant was, the best way of being visible, the best way of raising your profile is to be an extremely good communicator. And the best way to connect with people, I'm going to be biased, is story. But all the other stuff that goes with it too. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be on a stage. We're talking a simple meeting. I tend to work mainly with executives and business owners just because those are my people. However, you don't have to be in leadership to do the skills I talked about today at all. If you want to get to leadership fast, do them. I'm just saying. So you'll get to the point where I had a client one time, he was a ex-professional athlete, football player. And he then went to work for another finance firm. So very short version of the story is I worked with him on some speeches he was doing locally here in the Tampa Bay area. So we worked on some stuff. Then we finished. And then I didn't hear from him for a couple of months. Then he calls me out of the blue and says, Gian. I'm like, what? He says, okay, so whatever we did together for the speaking is translated in the way I show up at work. So much so that his boss came to him one day and said, I don't know what you're doing, but you just seem more confident. You just seem more trustworthy. I don't know what it is. So you know what? I'd like you to help me run some of my meetings coming up. Because what it does is you show up more confident because you are comfortable in your own skin, and others around you are paying attention to that. And then if the opportunity arises, they want to bring you up, they want you on board, and they want bragging rights because now you help them, or they helped you rather, be more successful. So if it's one of those things you've been thinking about, okay, I'm going to work on the speaking thing, just do it. Whatever that looks like for you, just do it. It translates, number one, professionally, yes, for sure, but also in your personal life too. And especially if you've got families. Because I don't know if you've seen what's out there in the media right now. Yeah. So as much as possible that we can continue to be role models, speak well, speak clearly, confidently, show up, comfortable in our own skin, that's what you're teaching other generations. So it's a much bigger picture than just a speech or a story, but it will take you so far you won't even imagine. So that's my story, and I'm going to stick to it. That's all I'm going to do.
No, I'm sticking to that story. The art of communication, understanding the human voice is so powerful, and how you use that instrument can control your destiny.
There you go.
There you go. So tell us how to contact you. How we can touch your business. How do we sign up?
Sign up. Probably the quickest way would be, for sure, LinkedIn. So just look up Jennifer Samuel Chance on LinkedIn. I'm there. If you want to find out more about the Executive Stage Presence Program, my website is www.MsGenGen, MsGenGen, E as in egg, S as in snake, P as in Paul. So MsGenGen, ESP.net. And that will kind of give you a little bit of a portal as into some of the stuff I talked about, the 5 steps, etc. Or again, just shoot me a message on LinkedIn. Tell me that you came from this wonderful podcast so I know. And then also, too, if you have any questions, feel free, please, to reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to help.
This has been a wonderful, wonderful session. I learned a lot. I know the audience has learned a lot as well. So we're going to continue to engage with you and understand what you're doing, because I think it's so, so important. Thank you for being a guest on the Follow Brand Show. And let your audience know they can tune in to all my episodes. I've got probably over 150, I think, or so now. They're there as a library of knowledge of people like yourself that have shared their particular story on business intelligence, on career development, on financial empowerment, on executive presence, on brand mastery. All of these things are important. And I cannot forget technology innovation. So if you're looking for information, knowledge, that and insight that you're not getting, this is a great way. And I definitely encourage everybody to tune in to Miss Jen Jen. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me as your guest. I appreciate it. It was an honor.